Let me kick things off this way with a radical proposition. The radical proposition is the HR community has a wonderful opportunity right now to change the world and to embrace something that can fundamentally change the way in which employees engage and in which leadership teams communicate with their employees. So the case that we're making today and the thing that we want to throw on the table is just how powerful these tools can be in the human capital space. If you've not heard of Tom Friedman, you should. He's written a number of great books. He has some views, as many do, on this social media thing. I think he's quite humorous as he talks about how the world has changed since 1990 or 2000 or 2004. The numbers you've all seen are growing. The social media side is growing faster than the internet side. No question that that trend will continue. The number of places that you can go to be on social media are growing. They're the traditional ones that you know of. And then there are more and more of these new emerging players, and they're gaining in popularity. Choices there for everyone. Canada sits pretty well in this space. We're a fairly highly connected community in that regard, and so Canada has an opportunity through its HR people to do great things and to be part of really tying the country together in a new way and moving us into a new space. While it is true that the dinosaurs like me are the white guys over 55 are perhaps the least inclined to get on social media, what you should know is that they're catching up very quickly, and here, of course, women always beat the men. So, but in both of those demographics, the gap is closing. The use of social media in that younger community, that 25 to 45 community you can see here on the green and purple parts of the chart. The question is, how fast does the rest of it catch up, and does the entire community? And what you'll notice here is on the mobile side, that 55 plus age group is in fact growing very rapidly. We expect these things to converge in due course. The corporate world, of course, has been comfortable with social media for a while with its consumers. Most organizations today are using one of these or some other tools to engage in a social way. You can see the growth charts here, trend charts, going back to, 2008? And again, what's going in a certain direction is likely to continue to go in a certain direction. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we've seen in the marketing departments and product departments and advertising departments of organization using this. And so the question to you is, why not use the same thing with your internal customers, i.e. your employees? So we know that with the consumer universe or customer universe, building the brand is the number one reason that you would go on social media in a big way. And I will just say to you, and I'd like you to think, what about the employment brand? And I think the parallels, as we've begun to think about this in the last 6 months, are overwhelming. CEOs, not all, but more and more, are trying to get comfortable on social media. The number that consider it a priority is rising, but there's still a great big universe out there, as represented in the red pie chart here, of CEOs who are not in this game. Again, I would kind of ask you in the HR field, what a great opportunity to become a strategic partner to your CEO and begin to do the sell job on this and to try to work on that. There's a lot of fertile territory for people to jump in and experiment. Social media listening, and I just want to build a bridge here. If it's important to listen to your consumers and customers, it's also important to listen to your employees. And we are going to suggest to you that the old ways of listening to your employees may be dead. If it's not dead today, it may be dead in the next 5 years. And then what are you going to do? And if you're not in this kind of space, you may be left behind. This chart will show you the vast difference between those that adopt and those that don't adopt. Importance of social media for listening, very high, considered to be important or somewhat important by, roughly 3/4 of the people there. I wonder what the responses would be in the HR community, but again, I think great opportunity. So let's talk about social media and the employees for a second, and then I'll hand over to Sue. You may not have seen a chart like this, but it's one way that we think of looking at organizational structure. And while it is true that there's almost 30% of companies that are in the centralized type of organizational structure, which, by the way, makes employee communication much easier, that 28.8, 30% is declining. And as you look across, you're going to see the drift from left to right. I don't know how big that so-called holistic section will be, but I can tell you more and more we're engaging with clients who are talking about how do you make a matrix really work and what's the next evolution of matrix. And that's really the evolution to the right-hand side of this particular slide. Those are the traditional engagement tools that you probably use in your organization. You can see how they're used across a wide universe. You'll see this is the IABC Employee Engagement Report. And here's some of the new stuff. And while it's true that the social media pieces over there may be small, they're growing. And the point of today's little chat is this train is coming in your direction. I hope you're aware of it, and are you prepared for it? Because while it may be relatively small today, we know that when social media has hit other parts of the economy, it's spread literally like a virus. And I think that's very possible that that could happen in the HR world as well. Came up with this chart, and it basically talks about employee listening or employee surveys, if you want to use the old language here. What surprised us was the percentage of organizations that are listening to their employees more than once a year. It's 36% are listening more than once a year to their employees. Now, if that trend continues, let alone how it looks here, where you can actually see there's a reasonable number of organizations that are listening weekly, if not monthly, certainly quarterly. And in the kind of world that we're in, our gut tells us that listening frequency is likely to get quicker and quicker and the cycle shorter and shorter. How are you going to do that if you're in a traditional kind of organization that uses traditional listening tools? So I think again, this train's left the station. Interesting here to just look for a second at the fact that almost a quarter of organizations don't enable their employees to engage on the job in social media. That seems a bit archaic when at the top of the chart you can see an equally large portion that have overcome that emotional hurdle of how do we give employees the opportunity to have conversations. And I know that Wendy and Sue will both talk about that as their experience at Scotia and TD. Promise and peril, last couple of slides here. No question that there's a certain amount of fear about the unknown, fear about doing something new and different, and maybe fear about giving voice to people in a way that you can't control it. And I think Scott will speak to this. There's no way you can control this beast. And so you have to kind of give up on that whole way of thinking. I'm not plugging any of these other than to tell you that there's an emerging universe of internal social media tools that you can use. We happen to use Chatter in our own organization because it's linked to Salesforce, but they're all there and they're all very good. So overcoming fear, how do you do that? How do you liberate the voices of the people? Two very quick little bits of insight from our own employee survey work with clients over time, and this is based on about 100 different organizations. These are questions lifted right out of our employee survey database, which the first one is showing you the percentage of respondents on the question of, do I believe that my management is honest and frank? It's really the next slide that really hits home, and it's about information flowing across organizations. So in a traditional organization, you can see here that we have large percentages of employees saying across all industries, I'm not getting the information I need in the way that I need it. These are the kind of forces that I think are going to push us over the edge. So to conclude, a bigger, more important part of our life, huge implications for the HR world in our opinion, and higher engagement and better and higher performance, I think, is what we all want. And the question, pardon me, for the day is, can social media inside the organization play that role? In the package that you have outside are all of these slides, including this one, which is simply to say it's your choice and just what side of history kind of do you want to be on, and that's obviously for you to make up.